episode of Thirsty Smurfin' Thursday. How the hell is everyone doing? It's good to see you all. We have an extra special episode tonight for a number of reasons. One, we have a returning guest and a fan favorite, and we've got the boys are back in town. The boys are back in town.
Are you a big Thin Lizzy fan? Are you?
Are you not?
Oh, Phil Lynot's my jam, dude. Let's talk about it. You ready to go? All right. How many other
than I am.
How many other African Irish bassists do you know in a top 40 band that plays dual lead guitars? I don't know. None. That's why.
Yeah, I was really scanning the brain there for a second. I was like, Telly Coleman? He's the only black
Telly
Irish
Coleman's,
guy I know.
He slaps the bass with something different.
That's right. That's the homemade slap at the bass.
Slap it to the bass. Slap at the bass. Yep. That's good. Ray, what do you slap the bass with? Besides Sheila, you slap her around the bass a little bit, don't you?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Out of love.
Yeah. Well, I was gonna say no. Yeah. I mean, hey, tell her, Sheila, can you let you tune down on my D string a little bit? How about that, huh?
I much prefer drop D these days. It's an easier tuning to play in. I don't know. So we had to have Ben reset his connection. Ben, are you back? He is.
I think so.
Oh, and you sound amazing. How the hell are you doing tonight, sir?
Good. Just extremely tired, but good.
Well,
Hear that.
I'm glad you're here. You can commiserate with us and on the fatigue aspect of things. Ben, it's been a hot minute since we talked to you. What's been going on? What the hell have you been up to?
In life in general, I've been mainly taking care of my 4 kids, and that's my job. Homeschooled 2 of them from October until August when they started preschool and kindergarten.
Yes.
And so now I have 2 at home 3 days a week, and then 3 at home, I guess, 2 days a week. So the other one's there 4 or 5 days a week, all day long. So, but aside from that, not much really going on in the lawn. Just enjoying my time out in the lawn without a camera, and not wanting to do that right now because I don't have a lot of free time, and I don't want to spend my free time recording myself. So
I know the feeling. All right. So this week was the first time I have published like an actual YouTube video in a year, close to it, 10 months probably. And I just do not have the motivation to record something, right? And a lot of that is psychological with me, right? Like I feel like I have to accomplish something to deserve talking about something, right? And so with everything I had going on at work, I felt like I had a success. I felt like it was okay. Like I earned the opportunity to go ahead and put out a video. It's a weird thing I have. I know I'm crazy. I should be on all kinds of medications, but I refuse them. Unless I diagnose myself and go source it from India and then decide to take it because I have a mental illness that there is no cure for.
Well, that and the Alabama
Someone
Gold
save
count
me
helps.
from myself. I'm digging a hole here.
Yeah, that I was going to say, now we know why you got the Alibaba Gold account, okay?
I do have an Alibaba Gold account.
Gosh. Well, listen, I'm excited because...
I'm not kidding. I really do. Do you want to see a screenshot?
I believe you. You know, I picture this as like a Costco card or something that you hold up and show to people like randomly on the street. Like, hey, do you know I'm an Alibaba Gold member? You know, like how you have to walk into Sam's Club and hold your membership card up so that like you're somehow, hey, yeah, I paid the $40. I'm in the clique. All right, fuck off.
I didn't have to pay anything. They gave it to me for free, and it keeps my social credit score going at all times. So it's a win-win scenario.
So maybe it's more like a casino players club card. They're like, all right, this dude has lost more than enough money with us. We feel bad for him. We want to give him a card with his picture on it and his name, and maybe he'll feel better about it. That's it. So, yep, swipe that. I bet you if you went to Caesars on the Strip and swiped that in the slot, you probably got points on there. They're probably, oh man, Matt Martin's here. Let's give him a sweet. And Mr. Martin, you want to go through the buffet line?
Sir, with the currency strength here, you have $1.70 on your card. How would you like to spend it? It's like, can I get a glass of water? No, that's $2.
Yeah, that's $2. Yeah, it's $2. That's actually real Las Vegas tap water, and we can't let it go for any more than $2. So, listen, we got.
Out there.
First of all,
sorry.
If you if you haven't watched the previous episode with Ben, I'd encourage you to watch this one and have no idea what we're talking about, and then go back and watch the first one later, so you don't waste your time right now. I think it's going to be good because, man, I'll tell you, if there was ever a person that made really significant progress, not because of what we said on here, right? He had already made significant progress because he had done the homework and really, tried to put the work in and everything like that. And now, what I gather in my conversations with Ben is that, Ben, you're trying to move to something that maybe raises the bar a little bit in terms of how your lawn looks and feels and everything like that, but while also trying to balance out the amount of work that you need to do because, as you said, you have 4 young children, and that's a lot of work in and of itself, and it's going to be a minute before you're going to have a staff to take care of the lawn. They got to get a little bit older. So tell us, kind of where it's been going here the last year, and maybe tease a little bit about what you're thinking for the future, and we'll dive into these issues, sort of the short term to the long term, and we'll just go through it, man.
All right. So last fall, I didn't do any aeration or overseeding. I thought
How dare you?
I thought it did fine last season. It seemed relatively thick. I had some spots that died, or from various reasons, I'm not sure why, but it wasn't too bad. So I did spot seed those spots, but I think when I did my fall pre-emergent, I thought I sprayed around them because I had them marked off, but I guess I didn't entirely miss them because nothing really grew in there. But it did okay. Things kind of somewhat filled in or whatever. There were definitely some thin areas coming into spring of this year. This year I just, did my sulfur, elemental sulfur. My biggest struggle throughout this year, as every year, is just my fungus. Like I just struggle with keeping on top of my fungicides, and it's just expensive to really get a good fungicide program dialed in. So that was kind of me just doing what I could. And the front yard did decent throughout the year. It was definitely the second worst. The worst was the backyard. I'm not really sure what happened back there. I think it had some sort of disease come through it. That's just my guess. I don't know for a fact. My side yard that's south facing, that did pretty well. I would say that just mainly stressed more from just lack of water or heat stress, just because it's in the sun all day long, and there is a little bit of a slope in that slope area. No matter how much I water it, it just will. You'll start to see some dry spots starting to form. So this fall, I rented an aerator, and I rented a power rake just for the heck of it, and really thrashed up the lawn. I did this last weekend actually, just because there were plenty of areas that thinned out quite a bit. So I just wanted to use the power rake more than anything, just to help me make those areas, thin out a little bit more, pull up some of the dead material, and give it a better seed bed. So I did that last weekend, and here we are. I took the lawn down to like 2 1/4. Just I gradually stepped it down just because I could, because I figured since I was gonna power rake, just to remove or have the power rake a better chance to get down deeper, so it's not having to scrape through a tall canopy and stuff like that. So
did you run it in reverse at all?
No, I did not.
That's probably a good thing. If anybody has ever run a power rake or a split seater in reverse, knows exactly what I'm talking about. It is the most miserable time you have ever had. There's nothing fun about it. That's the only reason I ask. It's a terrible idea. Don't ever do it. Maybe try it once.
Have an extra belt on hand.
Icy hot.
So what Ryan was talking about talking about some of my future plans, what I'd like to do, is on the south side of my yard. That's the big part that slopes. It's 4,500 feet. I was thinking about sprigging that with some iron cutter next year.
Whoa.
To diminish the amount of fungicides I'm having to use throughout the growing season or during the summer, the stresses of the cool season grass, because I can deal with, probably, it would be less than, it'd be around 4,000 to 5,000 square feet total that I'd have in the front and back of tall fescue, cool season mix, essentially. And I can handle that. That's not terrible. But when it gets to right now, it's, roughly 8,000 to 9,000 square feet. That's, that gets pricey when you're starting to really keep up with your fungicides, but also buy fungicides and all that kind of stuff. So, that's my plan next, late spring to do, because the sod farm near me, I think it's Heartland Turf or something like that.
Heartland Turf. Yep.
Yep. Yeah, they have iron cutter. My problem has been I just haven't been able to get a hold of anybody. Brandon said he would be able to help me get it because he's cool. He's he's more of a professional than me, so he has the professional brand, so he can reach out and grab it. But they don't normally sell sprigs to homeowners, is what I've been told. So since he has his own company, they would sell it to him, but not to me. So I'm trying to get basically get the sprigs through him, and those types of things. So that's my plan. I still overseeded that side of the lawn just in case for whatever reason I can't do it. But we'll see. That would be my goal. Even though I know it's going to take longer to green up, and it's going to go dormant earlier. The growing season of it's going to be relatively short, considering, it's not like it is down south. I'm okay with that. So.
You've grown Bermuda in your area, though, before.
Yeah, that was another reason why I wanted to do it, because my old house, I was playing around. It was like common Bermuda or whatever. I was playing around with that. And it was probably 200 or 300 square feet. It wasn't very big, but it was still fun to play with. And I saw the potential of just that alone, because I was like, this is so easy to take care of here. It's like, it doesn't get hot enough or humid enough for the amount of time that it deals with, like down south, where you might deal with some fungus that I would otherwise not deal with here. So you don't have to really, or I never have really had to worry about applying a fungicide to it. It was basically mowing, watering, and fertilizing, and even that you had to do. Mowing you had to kind of keep up with, but even fertilizing and watering, it wasn't like something that, you really had to hit it hard to keep it going. So
I think your approach. Go ahead, Demay.
No, I was going to say, I think it's a winner. I think, whereas some people might want to say zoysia, it's a little bit easier to take care of, all that. I think Ray would tell you that, getting it established without, with sprigging it is going to be a long, long process in your area. It's not going to be a one and done in a year. It'll be uncomfortable, for a longer period of time like that. The other thing is too, you're probably less likely to see winter kill on that, I would say. But on the flip side, iron cutter, if you do have any, chances are you're going to be able to plug your way out of it. I wouldn't feel too worried about it. So that slope, what direction does that face? Cardinal direction. Northeast, southwest?
It would be west. Yeah,
okay.
Kind of like a southwest facing slope. And
it's
perfect.
Not
like any.
Perfect.
It's not like anything like it. When I talk, for me, what my experience with slopes is, that's nothing compared to what
your
backyard slope I had at my old house. It's just like a little.
That was a
I don't
slope.
even. I don't even. I mean, it's. I don't know. It's just a little contour. It's nothing too bad, but the water definitely drains off of it. And even like right now, when I'm keeping the seed moist and stuff, I can tell that area is still drying out, even though, or sooner than any other area, even though we've had cooler temps and stuff like that. So, um, but yeah, I see a comment. Jago, he said, "Are you far enough south?" That's a lot of people think like I'm not far enough south, but I'm like, well, they're growing it at a sod farm right in my area, so I would imagine if a sod farmer's growing it, it's probably just fine. Especially, I know there's different cultivars that do better in our area versus down south.
In
So-
Missouri is one of those states too that you see a fair amount of Bermuda and Zoysia there. Tifway
Mhm.
Lawn, he deals with a fair amount of Bermuda and Zoysia, and he's over on the other side of Missouri, closer to Joplin area, right? And that makes up a large percentage of the lawns he treats, and so you see that there. And I always kind of equated St. Louis to like when I lived in Memphis. It's not too far from Memphis, right? And I would kind of look at the weather from time to time. I had a bunch of friends that went to college there and stuff too. So you look at it from time to time, and it's not a whole lot different than Memphis. It's not significantly different. It's different, but it's not significantly different. So hell yeah, man, good for you. That is the exciting thing about this to me is you nailed it on the head. The money saving potential long term of a Bermuda grass. Now, I will say this: your upfront cost on herbicides is going to be high. Because any of the most broad spectrum herbicides you choose to use are going to be relatively expensive. Now, you could be more targeted with your herbicide selection, but you would have to accumulate so many of them, such a vast number of them, that you're going to end up spending the same amount of money, whether you buy fewer that are broad spectrum or you buy a higher number that are more weed specific. Does that make sense?
Are you saying it would be more expensive because I wouldn't be able to use some of the same herbicides on that grass type that I would the cool season grass? Is that why you're saying that?
Yes, like for instance, your POA is probably not going to be as severe for you in cool season grass as it is in warm season grass. And Demay, so I'm curious your perception here. I always felt like POA was not as bad. Now, POA Triv is kind of the anomaly. I'll say that. But POA A was not as bad in turf type tall fescue as Bermuda grass.
Oh, I mean, I think it's probably hidden a little bit better. So you got that going on.
True.
Yeah, I mean, well, let me see. I'll find a photo and show you a difference here. But, the thing I think is that we've got more tools with which to treat preventatively, right, or post-emergently for POA, right, within these stands on Bermuda grass. So when somebody says, "Hey, I'm worried about this. I'm concerned about this," I say, "Hey, you got a lot more tools, working in your favor." And quite honestly, the other thing too that we have that Ben's not going to necessarily have, but is mechanical means, like so using phrase mowing and things like that we think about more on the sports field side. But Ray, there is a pedestrian phrase mower now, so you too could potentially be out there doing some crazy stuff
Tell
like that.
Ray about that. This.
Here's the photo.
Wild.
Here's the photo I want to show. Let me send this to J Pink real quick. Go on, J Pink or Ray.
Actually, I think we were talking about that walk behind phrase mower as part of a total walk behind implement system, right, Ryan?
Mm-hmm. Now look at this. Can you right click on that and do open a new tab on the photo so we can see a little better? No, not the link, the photo. Open image and new tab. Perfect. Now you can enhance. See, we can enhance a little better.
Enhance.
So what? Enhance.
Enhance.
So what you're seeing here? Slide down a little bit. Lower.
Enhance.
Keep going. Oh. there. It is.
Oh,
Okay,
there it is.
perfect.
Look at this.
Perfect. Now, here's what you're seeing, gentlemen. This is all Bermuda grass, and on here is a fairway in the foreground, and off to the right there, that's the rough. So, fairway is mowed somewhere, normal when Bermuda grass is growing, probably around half an inch or so, and the rough over here is mowed at about 1.25 inches, so maybe a tad bit taller. So, just by virtue of mowing height, look at the difference in POA and what we see. And this actually had pre-emergent applied too. So this is showing
Shout
not
out
only
to
the
Jim Brosnan for talking about this.
yeah.
Because it was so obvious in residential lawn care, especially in Memphis. Memphis was I mean, this is like a very typical, like you apply prodiamine in Memphis, and then you show up and yards look like the fairway here. Okay, this is what was notorious. Depending upon the neighborhood you lived in, you had these quirks in various neighborhoods, right? Where the grass would go dormant, and in some neighborhoods, everybody immediately, as soon as it went fully dormant, would hire someone to come in and just absolutely cut the top off the grass. And it was everywhere you went. It was all gone. And you're like, man, this is amazing. It's just, they must have the same mowing guy come in here and just absolutely obliterate everything. And you would see POA like this in the yards, and you're like, golly. Versus you go to the neighborhood next to it, just down the road, and everybody left it tall over winter and left that canopy strength intact, and it looked like the right side here. A little bit of POA here and there, but by and large, nothing like the neighborhood you just left. And it was funny. That was one of the things we talked about in our branch all the time. That now I'll say this is even all the way back to my True Green days. Was the recommendation that when the lawns went fully dormant, do not cut your grass. Leave it tall, leave it leggy, leave a nice thick canopy in place, because that's going to help with your weed pressure, and that's exceptionally important at True Green because you're spraying water. Now, I'm gonna. That's career suicide. I can't say that. At True Green, you didn't quite have the tools in the toolbox that you did when I worked at other companies, and so it was imperative that you used everything at your disposal to get the best control possible. And this is one of those things. It's interesting to see it come from Jim Brosnan. I never heard anybody say that it was bogus or bullshit or cut it low in winter from a university perspective. But it's nice to see that he's saying here, it's time to talk about this. We need to talk more seriously about leaving your high to cut higher on your dormant Bermuda grass because of the cultural control you get out of it here. So that's fascinating.
It's just it is, and I think well the point there is one for our audience is that it's just to illustrate the cultural choices that we make and the way that we take care of our grass have implications far more reaching than it makes it look prettier than than the guy next to me, or it gives me a domination line, or it makes my dick bigger, or whatever you think it does. It has implications outside of that from an agronomic perspective, and you need to be wary of that. So, Ben, I guess the point here being is that I think that in your case, Bermuda can be forgiving if you maintain it right. And when I say that, I mean, mowing it at an appropriate height, mowing it correctly, right? Doing the right things from a cultural standpoint to manage weeds, right? So using herbicides and also not mowing too low, right? Not putting yourself in that situation. And then from a disease perspective, like you don't have to spray any fungicides whatsoever. From a standpoint of like spring dead spot, something like that, I would wait until you saw it, until you worried about it. I would not get too caught up in something like that, especially given where you want to put your money and do all that stuff. Now, that being said, some of the cultural practices, some of the things you need to do in terms of, texture management and of the grass itself, and then thatch management. Ray, why don't you speak to that a little bit? What do you think on, a couple things. Number one, culturally, if we're trying to, thread the needle between, Ray level stuff and, some idiot who's just going to put Bermuda in their lawn and think that they can not do anything other than mow it. What is the appropriate amount of cultural practices, and how can we sort of push and pull on the accelerator here? And then any other concern about the slope, and whether we're talking about granular herbicide or fertilizer applications, things like that, anything to do with the slope that gives you pause, because I know you deal with that a little bit out there.
Okay, my first concern with slopes is, for example, I just came from a house this morning where I literally told the person who had that lawn that there are certain areas where, because I cannot get the correct mowing equipment on it, seriously consider re-landscaping it to a non-grass type vegetation or cover.
Mm.
Because slopes tend to be the place where grass looks like ass. Okay? It looks awful. And, so I say, don't do this. But otherwise, what you were saying about cultural practices, overall, my experience has been with cultural practices on warm season grasses is less is more. Okay? Less is more. And when I say less is more, less water, less fertilizer, and I'm also going to be a little bit controversial on the mowing part of it, in that what I tell people to do and what I practice myself on grass is I tend to go for the lower height of cut and as infrequently as possible. And the reason why I do that
Okay.
And the reason why I do that is because I do not want to encourage density during the growing season. In other words, what
Really?
I'm always fond of saying on a warm season grass is, good words for me on a warm season grass is short and thin. Those are good words for me with a warm season grass. Short and thin.
So then talk a little bit about, okay, so, given Ben's got a short growing season, much shorter. So, Ben, I'm going to suspect that you are probably pretty well, and Matt, you jump in here because you are right. I think Memphis is a very good corollary. Greened up
Yes.
pretty much all the way by Mother's Day, pretty close to it. Maybe Memorial Day.
Mid-May, June, fully green completely.
Chooching in June, July, August, still chooching pretty good in September, and then you start kind of weaning back a little bit. And by November, you're going off color and maybe dormant by Thanksgiving. I don't know. Is that fair to say, Matt?
Pretty dead nuts on. I would say you'll probably see Memphis. I would say mid-April to late April is when the Bermuda was really starting to rock, and definitely by mid-May, like it's gangbusters. It's gangbusters time. So I would say in St. Louis, mid-May you're pretty well greened up, and by June 1st you're like, damn, this baby is smoking hot. What was it at your old house? Do you remember?
I don't. I'd have to go back and look back at pictures. I don't remember. I know the color lasted longer than I think I was expecting, but it could have been we had a warm fall that went farther into, went longer than expected. I don't remember exactly, 'cause I really only messed with that for real for one season, and after that, then we moved. So
Grass wasn't good enough, boys. He said, "I'm out of here. This is it. Done."
J-Ping, I did send pictures of the yard just for reference so you can use those. And the pictures are all end of the summer pictures, just like a week or so or week or two before I tore it up last weekend.
Can you resend, because it's one picture and it's a line.
Uh-oh.
Line of what?
I'm actually going through your old videos, Ben, here.
Don't do that.
Trying to find this. Oh, stop it. Stop it. In my opinion, I think more people in the transition zone should play around with Bermuda in a big way. Especially the number of people that are having to apply fungicides at crazy, if you are at 4 applications of strobilurins a year because you have to, and you're weaning into your 5th one because you have to, then reconsider another turf type. And if you don't like the idea of dealing with dormancy, consider a Bermuda, consider overseeding perennial ryegrass, consider paint, hashtag fake natty,
Yeah.
and proud.
Mm-hmm.
And proud.
Yeah.
Spicy.
I'm just saying, I've got nothing to hide. If I'm going to turn it, if I need the green, I'm willing to do what's necessary to do it.
I have no problem with paint.
Yeah. Yeah, I got
Not
no
at all.
problem with paint because by the way, I have somebody who has a grass that they shouldn't have, and guess what's part of their monthly program?
What's that?
Turf paint.
There you go.
I just paint the damn thing because I tell them, look it, you were sold the wrong damn thing. I'm sorry that happened to you, but until you can come up with the scratch to scrap this damn monstrosity and take this abomination to the dump and replace it with Bermuda, I'm going to have to paint.
Ben,
It's such
I'm
a
looking-
gentle bedside manner.
I'm looking at a video from May 31st of 2019, and you're mowing Bermuda grass in 1.5 inches. You're testing Bermuda plugs, all that fun stuff, and you are fully green without a doubt. There's no ifs, ands, buts, or about it. You're fully green. It's obviously growing. I see runner development. I mean, it's go time. So even more so, am I co-signing your decision to experiment with Bermuda, especially something like Iron Cutter that is going to be so tolerant, especially compared to your common, just whatever was there naturally. That's a no-brainer. In my opinion, that is the smartest thing you can do. Do away with the tall fescue. Do away with it. Make the transition. I think, in all honesty, right now, if 20% of the people transition over to Bermuda in a transition zone, they could convince the other 80% within a year that it's the right decision. And in my opinion, it's the right decision. It's just my opinion. I'm going to throw that out.
Well, I know I can only do it really. There's only 2 areas that I could do it, and that's the side part because it gets sun all day. It's a perfect candidate for Bermuda. The backyard is more than likely another place because I know it's going to creep under the fence and go back there. And then I'm not, that's fine with me. I don't care. I don't care if that eventually all becomes Bermuda at some point. I don't think the front yard would do well because I have trees there, big trees that would cast too much shade, and I know it gets too thin. That's
Sure.
my experience. I know that just because I lived down in Dallas, grew up down in Dallas, and I saw that. So I don't want to have 2 different
Mess
grass
with
types
Texas.
in one part of the yard, just because it has shade, and I just don't want to do that. I'd rather just keep the tall fescue or whatever in the front yard, let that do its thing, take care of it, and manage it, and then just take care of the side yard that's
Ben,
mainly that will be all Bermuda. So, what's up, Ray?
Ben, I have a question for you. In the shady part of your yard, how does the turf type tall fescue manage? Given that it does have some protection from the heat and the sun from the trees.
It does great. I mean, there's a distinguishable line. I mean, you can actually see it there. First of all, there's a distinguishable line as far as like how it looks throughout the summer. Like it's generally greener. Even the north side of my lawn, or the north side of my house, where it gets very little sunlight, direct sunlight. It does really well over there primarily because of that fact. It doesn't generally deal with disease pressure under the trees, and so on.
Okay.
Most of that disease. Yep. Go ahead.
Okay, yeah, I mean, then that's kind of your simple answer. Then is why not keep the turf type tall fescue in the partial shade? Because I've heard of it actually doing a lot better in the south and transition zone when it does get some shade and protection from the hottest part of the day. However,
Yep.
the part that is sunny and hot and basically brutal on the turf type tall fescue in the summer, Bermuda, definitely Bermuda. I mean, why fight it? Because I think what you're running into is the parts of the yard that get too hot are beyond the physiological limits of the turf type tall fescue. It's just too hot. Whereas with Bermuda, 90 degrees, 95 degrees, no big deal. I mean, look at our friend Aldo on the California Arizona border. He's at 110 degrees sometimes, and his Bermuda does just fine as long as he waters it.
And that's the other thing is you get a fair amount of rain, don't you?
It can be. I would say yes, considering other areas of the United States. Yeah, we can get our fair. We can have a good spring, have a good fall, but we've had plenty of dry springs and falls. But, yeah.
So
The nice part about it too is just the cooler temps. That's what helps. Like I don't know what it is, but it's like around end of September, beginning of August. Even though it's still hot, the humidity has backed off tremendously, and I can tell the disease pressure. Even though I'm on the tail end of my last app of being effective, it's pretty much not really harming the lawn. The lawn's starting to get you can tell the lawn's like, all right, let's go. Like it's it's starting to be healthier looking in a way, even though it's still pretty hot. So that's another factor that I think is a positive is I don't need to be running, from my experience, fungicide super far into August.
So it's looking like you're at 34 to 40 inches a year, somewhere thereabouts at St. Louis. What I'm getting at there is that it would cut down on your water requirement aside from your initial install. Don't get me wrong. During your initial install, it's going to be, pivotal. But aside from that, it would cut your water usage down significantly. Significantly. Because think about how many times you have to turn on the water now because you're graying out in certain areas.
Yep.
It's just not going to happen at the same rate with Bermuda grass. And take advantage of it, Again, another plus in the money saving category.
Well, and the other thing about that too that I think is a plus is I know a lot of my pH problems are something that doesn't help it is my water. Because I almost hate watering because I'm undoing everything I'm trying to undo. So that could be a plus, at least on the side part of the yard, is I won't have to maybe water it as much, and then my applications of elemental sulfur can take a greater effect in those types of things. So, yeah, I think it's an all around positive. I'm just kind of it's a little overwhelming to think about to kill off half my lawn essentially to do it all.
Let's get into this. Let's operate under the guise that we are 100%. We're doing this. We're committed. Where's your hat on this? What do you need to know to give you the confidence to move forward on it?
Let's do it.
Mostly I just want to I want to know the cost, or I want to, because I'm already budgeting things out to see all right, I want to know how much, work I'm going to need to put into doing this. So I already understand, I'm going to have to kill off that part of the lawn. That's it. And then I would assume, I messaged this to Ryan. I would kill off the lawn, cut it as low as I could, get as much of that crap out of there. And then once I know I would have to spray it out a couple times to ensure everything was dead, in fact, before I sprigged it.
Not really.
It's no.
I just wouldn't
Okay,
worry about
let's-
it because everything is so easy to kill in Bermuda grass that I
Okay,
wouldn't worry about fouling.
Ben, the thing about transitioning from a cool season turf to Bermuda is that you now have tools in the toolbox where anything other than Bermuda shows up in your Bermuda grass, you can say bye bye to it relatively easily. Aloha. I mean, I'm talking for Bermuda, you can even break out the bad M word on it and smoke cool season invaders in it.
Wait, what's the
I'm not
bad
talking
M
about-
word?
MSMA
Oh,
or MSM. MSM. You can break out that little
Just
bottle of
the
MSM.
sulfonylureas and be done with it.
mm-hmm.
Yeah, sulfonylureas. You can use Celsius on it. Revolver. There's a lot of things you can do to it. And
Monument.
Yeah,
Katana.
Well, so
And
here's
the
my
other
one
thing that-
question. Okay, go ahead.
I-
And then I'll ask my question.
okay, and if you feel that your process to convert over is going to be very daunting, consider this. I would even look at what I call a no-till reno in
Okay.
Sprigs, and I've done these.
Yeah.
You know what a no-till reno is?
I do not.
Okay, I'll tell you what it is. You scalp off your old, stuff after you've given it a round of glyphosate,
Mm-hmm.
and then you install your sprigs, and then you lightly top dress it with sand to hold down those sprigs, and then you start watering until the sprigs take hold and have taken root. And then you just take care of the lawn like a lawn.
So
It's
that's
not
the
that daunting.
when you mentioned top dressing with sand, like that's one thing I didn't know if I would need to do because I didn't know. First of all, I don't have a good efficient method of doing that, and I
can
can't
get
afford
away
to be
without
out
it.
there. Okay.
You're good.
Here's the other thing. I'm sorry I'm interrupting. I'm gonna make this clear though that even if only 50% of your sprigs survive, you can still grow in the whole damn yard in a season.
Sure.
Yeah, Bermuda grows.
Yeah.
I mean, it's.
I know you saw that.
You don't.
Yeah.
Hang on a second here. Go ahead. So, how do I want to say it? So, JP, can you throw the one photo up where we're looking at the side yard, like looking up the hill? There we go. Perfect. So this is the area in question. J Farm in the chat asked a great question. How are we going to segregate these grasses so that we don't have Bermuda spilling into the backyard and vice versa? I think we can make a little physical barrier here. I think you can put, some type of edging, some type of rock border, some decorative stone, something like that, on either side of the fence, maybe 6-8 inches out on either side, and keep everything at bay, and it should be fine. So, that's one thing that I would say is, try not to mix these things. The other thing is the hell strip, curb strip, tree strip, whatever the hell you call it. What are you going to do with that? Is that also going to be Bermuda too, or no?
Yes.
Okay.
I'm going
So
all. This
then-
is all. So the main portion and the parkway. That's all 45.
Parkway.
It combined is 4,500 square feet.
And is everything here irrigated within ground, or no?
Yes.
Outstanding. All right, we're in a good spot.
Fantastic.
Here's the only tricky part I see about this, and it's more on the weed control side, quite honestly, is your neighbors back there behind you, which would be to our left in the photo. How well do you know them?
I know them fairly well. So that's their That's the property line right there, like where you see the end of the fence, and then it's just open into their side yard right there. So I know what you're talking about it spilling into their yard and whatnot. I don't know that
leave
I'm
a
not.
buffer on your back lane right there. Leave a buffer. Don't
I
try
was
to
gonna
hit
say-
every weed along the edge.
what I'm going to say, though, and here's what I was going to say, is like not only the physical barrier so that you don't get Bermuda creeping into your yard, like put a small bed there, do something to break it up a little bit. But the other thing is, too, and Ray can speak a little bit to this, and Matt probably too, the sulfonylurea is the main chemical that we're going to use to keep cool season out of warm season. Those suckers move pretty easily. So when you get a little bit of rainfall and you don't get that stuff down in there, they will go right down the sidewalk and spill into this grass over here and nuke some shit.
It moves laterally.
I'm not saying that's a reason. I'm not going to say it's a reason to stop and not do it. I'm just trying to present all the realities of what you're going to deal with. Now, all that being said, go ahead.
Okay, you know what? I actually despise conjoined lawns. I despise them. I mean, I would be in
after Ray seeds or sprigs, he doesn't like to touch after that's happened. It's a thing.
Yeah. Okay.
Sorry, Sheila.
I'm in favor of
It's not for me.
a actual divider or barrier between properties. And with Bermuda grass, so that I'm a good neighbor, I want a 2-stage barrier. Stage 1 is actual landscaping, be it rock, mulch, a planter bed, a hedge, and stage 2, which separates stage 1 from your actual lawn, and the Bermuda grass is in the form of edging that goes down at least 8 to 10 inches deep.
Whoa.
Jeez.
Hang on. Let me give you an
That's pretty
alternative
deep.
perspective here. And just
I was going to throw in my
just
2 cents too. Go ahead.
I have dealt with a lot of cool season meets warm season lawns. I have been a little riskier than I probably should spraying sulfonylureas on warm season lawns that drain into cool season lawns. I have never had a major issue of a ton of movement into a cool season lawn as long as I maintained a foot buffer, 2 feet tops. Now, very rarely am I also blanket spraying sulfonylureas too, right? And mainly for this reason. If I am going to blanket spray, I'll keep it up in an open area. If I'm dealing with a couple pieces of POA down by the neighbor's yard, I'm usually not even going to worry about it. Or if I'm dealing with POA and it's dormant, I'm just going to spray glyphosate and be done with it too, just because you're not going to have anywhere near the amount of movement, right? So it kind of opens up the flexibility there. The only other time where, and you can be careful with your sulfonylurea selection too, right? Like say you're dealing with a bad nutsedge issue, instead of always reaching for your monument, which is amazing and is going to be your one spray for the year, and then you don't have to deal with it for the rest of the year, which you can do, right? You've got that flexibility to be able to do that. But say it's right there along that neighbor's edge, then you can run your halosulfuron and you don't have to worry about it. You can run your imazasulfuron, the Solero, and not have to worry about it. You can run to Smith's and not have to worry about it, right? So you've still got options on the table for difficult areas that are meeting that. But again, I just to put a little bit less worry into you, because I know how serious you take these things, Ben, and I know you will outthink yourself several times if given the opportunity to. You're gonna be okay. You're not gonna kill your neighbors.
Yeah,
I promise.
I'm not, and
No,
and that's the thing.
You're not going to kill your neighbors. However, your neighbors might want to kill you when the Bermuda goes into their turf type fescue.
Except
Well,
when they
that's the
see it in
thing.
your lawn, and then they're going to thank you, and they're going to transition too. They're going to
Well,
knock on your
that-
door, July 4th, and they're going to be like, Ben, I need your help. Please help
Well,
me.
so here's the thing: is I'm not really that concerned with it because for one, they don't. I'm not going to say they don't care about their yard. They do what they can with the time and stuff like that with what they do or with their lawn. But there's also a lot of I have 2 houses across the street, and there's several other houses in my neighborhood that are zoysia, and they are all over their neighbor's yard. And I don't see them out yelling at one another. And I know these people, so I know that, and I don't hear about them talking that their neighbors have a
Well-
problem about the
well,
Zoysia
Ben,
and stuff like that. So
I,
yeah, what's
I have
up,
an
Ray?
opposite. I have an opposite point of view because you just said my trigger word right there.
Oh no.
Zoysia from the neighbor's yard in another kind of grass. Do you know how hellish that is? Because I deal with that rather often.
Ray, I
Okay,
will,
I
I
deal
will
with-
say this, that there is so much native Bermuda in the transition zone that seemingly comes from nowhere. And I know you see it. I know you see people join the Discord or in other places online, and they're like, I don't understand. Where did this Bermuda come from? I've sprayed it 30,000 times from Sunday. It continues to come back. I didn't plant this. Who put it here? Why are the birds doing this to me? Does God hate me? And the answer to all that is no. It's just natural. It's just going to happen, right? It's too aggressive of a grass. So I think that plays into your favor, especially where you are in the transition zone, especially in a neighborhood that already has creeping zoysia grass going everywhere. Now, Ray, in your defense, there is no one in the world that has the level of turf grass control issues that you do, and I get where you're coming from. That if I maintain that level of control and someone's zoysia grass is running into my yard, I don't know. They may see what the underside of my boot looks like too.
Well, it's just that it's a matter of, I guess, consideration where
Sure.
when different grasses mix together and they're already at a high level of maintenance, it just stands out like a sore thumb.
Sure.
It really does. It doesn't look good. Like, for example, when zoysia jumps into another variety of warm season grass, it looks butt ugly because the zoysia is normally overgrown and gnarly looking when the other variety of grass is still fairly well behaved. So, I just kind of keep that in mind. Whereas the problem with, I guess, the turf type tall fescue being invaded by Bermuda is that when you get into that summer stressful period, that Bermuda is literally going to take over the neighbor's yard.
Yeah.
And they may or may not appreciate that.
Or they may thank
Sure.
you. I'll play devil's advocate.
Or they may
there.
love you. Yeah, because what I got to say is when the zoysia jumps in from the neighboring property, I am cussing the HOA, the landscaper that installed that, and the city and county of Honolulu, not in any particular order. Okay?
Ray calls a senator when zoysia encroaches in his lawns. Sometimes he's got to get it off his chest.
No zoysia, no peace.
The other thing too is that the type of Bermuda that would be invading in this particular instance would be a hybrid Bermuda, right? And so the aesthetic value would be higher than something like a leggy common would. So I don't think it would be as significant of an issue. And the other thing is too is that it's just so common. It's like when we're in Louisville, boys, right? And you're right around Louisville. There's no discernible difference between where the Bermuda ends and the cool season grass begins, right? It's
Yeah,
all
just
just
like
kind of the same.
Yeah.
Green velvet all
Right.
over.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It's just
Great
green
compliment, by
grass.
the way.
Yeah.
But and I think that's not just unique to Louisville. That's not unique to the state of Kentucky. That is a transition zone thing. It's like we have homogenized cool season, warm season, and Dallas grass, and that is basically it. And nutsaid, right? And it doesn't matter where you go. You're looking down the side of the interstate. It's Bermuda grass, some tall fescue clumps, and Dallas grass as far as the eye can see. And in fact, I would say the most prominent turf type that we have in the transition zone is indeed Dallas grass. for unmaintained areas. You know, it's like a turf type here. So,
Shout out to Chuck in the chat.
what's up? Chat.
No, never mind.
You threw me off my name. What else? What else are you worried about, Ben? I'm worried about you
So
worrying.
I want
about
to take.
this.
Go ahead.
I mean, I'm not. When you say worry is that's a strong
word.
word. So I wouldn't say worry is a good word, but I've never done like a full reno like that before. So it's just kind of the unknown, and I know I can do it. I have no doubt about that. You know, I'm excited about it. If I can make it happen, I'm just excited about it because I know how much it's just gonna make things easier for me in the long run. So, you know, there's that. So I guess to recap, just what we've talked about thus far. So essentially, the process would be spray it out, you know, mow it down to the ground, and at that point, I can essentially sprig it. Are you saying?
Yeah.
What do you
Absolutely.
think? Power rake it?
That's another
Yeah, I'd
thing. I was
rough it up.
gonna say, like-
I'd rough it up a little bit. I'd rough it up. I wouldn't
Okay.
like.
Run your
Beat
zip
the
seeder
shit out of
seamless across it?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, because
yeah.
because I'm also considering like equipment that I have available to me that I can rent, and I know I can rent a power rake. That's no problem. I can also rent a roller too. Like if after sprigging, if rolling is advantageous. To,
Yes.
It's absolutely.
Roll.
If you can't crimp it, you can roll it.
Okay.
Roll that thing, down because rolling to me is probably very essential to do after you sprig because sprigs, at least the sprigs that I get in my area, the good sprigs are scrap sod that has been thrown through a tree tripper. And so it's a little bit chunky. That's the good stuff though, Matt. But then, you know what makes that even better? Is when you run a heavy ass roller over it and flatten all that stuff and make good contact with the ground, and then you just start watering it until those sprigs stick roots into the soil underneath, and then you're golden. And by the way, that process for the sprigs to stick roots down into the ground can be as soon as about a week or two after you first broadcast the sprigs. It's not a prolonged or painful process. It's pretty quick. You're right, Ryan? It doesn't take too long to happen.
For it to tack in? No, not
For it
really.
to-
I'll take it.
Yeah, it takes only about a week or two.
So, yeah, I mean, and here's the process, Ben. I'll kind of take you through. This is iron cutter. This is what you're talking about using. So here's the progression from day 0, the day it got sprigged, all the way through. So, you got to keep it wet. You don't have to keep it this wet. This is pretty wet, but these were fresh sprigs, just trying to get a stir. But this is what it should look like if you're watering it just right. You're just damp enough on the surface that you might see a little bit of water here and there, but it's actually pretty good. The other thing here too to mind is making sure. Jesus, stop sending me messages, Matt.
Sorry.
You're interrupting me. Food porn. So you're gonna see this where all this stuff looks like it's dead. Now you might get lucky and get fresh enough stuff from the farm that this stays green and never goes off color. It'd be hard for you to do, I think, because you're probably going to get loose sprigs and not. This is sod to sprigs, kind of what Ray was talking about before. So you keep it wet. You do this. This now here is where he said it starts pushing out. So those of individual plant parts that were back here actually start pushing out new growth, and you start seeing this stuff take off and push out green tissue, which then continues to push out and make more green tissue, okay? So this here, this is probably about day 21 or so after sprigging, okay? We keep moving on. Now here, this is about day 35. So between this and this picture is about 2 weeks, okay? So 2 weeks have elapsed. We do our first mowing here. This is right about day 35. Another mowing picture. Here's what she looks like all mowed up for the first time. So and you get some thinner areas, and you're going to find this too, especially if you don't crimp it in and do everything. You're going to see differences in variety in how well
Sure.
certain areas are filling in. So here, this is going to be, this is, I think, a week or two, 42, 45, something like that, continuing to push in, and you're seeing it tiller out and push actual tillers out into these open spaces and close those up with runners above ground and stolons below ground. This is a very aggressive tiller in grass. Same picture, same time frame. Now this here, this is day 49. I know that for sure. So but this is 42. This is 49 here. So a week difference between that and that. So as you start to mow it more, pushing it down, right, and getting those runners to tack in, it starts to spread even faster and faster as you continue to mow it. So the more often you mow it, the better you're going to see it spread and fill in. And then finally, this is the same day. Let's move on here. This is day 58. So this is whatever. So would that be 8 weeks? 8 weeks in a couple of days. Day 58, it's closed up that gap and lowering height a little bit. And then here it's kind of into that height where we've scalped down just a touch. So day 58, and then here we are, day 70, first games. So this is 7 days or 70 days, 10 weeks from start to finish. I would not recommend doing it any shorter than that because this is not. It's like
my beehole was puckered on that one.
Yeah, this one is basically like having your scrotum right next to the deli slicer for 10 weeks. It's not fun. So a little bit of a progression. Yeah, yeah, that's what I think I said
what
that
was
actually.
the height of cut of this?
Cut. So we first started cutting it at a little above an inch, like an inch and an eighth. We ended up on that scalp here back at 50 or whatever this was, 49. Took it down to like 3/4 and then let it grow back up to an inch. We like this at an inch. It's a very forgiving height. Maintain it at. It looks good. It's easy to manage texture on this grass, especially if you're using PGR here. But we have this year very, very forgiving height of cut. Okay. So you get into this. This is first games. Everything looks all peachy. It's not moving forward. There we go. So then this is a couple weeks into the season. We're playing some games on it. So, foot traffic, all that kind of stuff. Not quite indicative for you, but it's important for us to look at this stuff. But it can get, it's getting beat up here more and more. This is light overseed. So you are seeing some ryegrass here, Ben. So this is a 5 pound per thousand or 7 pound per thousand overseed with perennial ryegrass that was probably put in about 6 weeks prior to this picture being taken here. So it's not a ton of ryegrass, but a lot of what you see here is Bermuda. This is actually October 17th, something like that. So look good, really tasty at that time of year. This is a couple weeks later. This is the end of October. So this is like October 29th, 30th, something like that. Still holding on to color, really good. You would otherwise see just rye with a bunch of dormant Bermuda mixed in here. And you'll see just how light our overseed was here in just a second. So this is like about the 10th of November. We had a couple killing frosts, like some really low temperatures, 28, 27 degrees. And so you can see how little ryegrass is really in here. So what you're seeing here and here, that's a lot of Bermuda that's still shining through and looking damn good into late October here in Ohio. Now it's much story down there. You guys are probably a little bit warmer, a little bit longer, and really not losing anything. We did not paint this field. We've never painted this one here. Haven't had to, and so like I said, it's a good grass. I think that's a good kind of snapshot of what you'd see on a grow-in, start to finish until it went dormant, and then at that point, you can go fake natty. You can go. Heck, you can go whatever you want.
Okay. Yeah, I mean that's all very familiar looking. Like when it started getting past the sprig stage, and you could see like kind of the clumps, and it's spreading there. That reminded me exactly of when I did the plugging project back at my old house, of how it was just like, sending out those runners and thickening up. That was very familiar looking. So that's kind of what I was expecting. I mean, I wasn't expecting anything less. You guys made me start thinking more about my neighbor now, because I I guess one thing I could do is just talk to him beforehand, be like, "Hey, this is what my plans are coming up this next year, and this is what Bermuda can do," and just getting their take on it to see if it's a big deal to them. Because J Pink, I sent another picture. It kind of gives perspective of how wide that property line is between the fence and the road of the side yard. Because it's probably, I mean, it's a decent chunk of space, so I'd have to put a fairly large chunk of landscaping in to create that border. But no, that's on all that looks fantastic. That was beautiful. That was all last year, Ryan.
Yeah, that was all last year. So kind of just the progression from start to finish. And again, nothing particularly special. There was a lot of N, I would say, more than we would normally put down with the 70-day timeline, and I wouldn't recommend that. I think the sweet spot for this grass is about 12 weeks. If you had 12 solid weeks of good weather, growing, everything like that. So for you out there, like if you plan to do it right around Memorial Day, I mean, by mid-August, end of August, it would be banging. It would look like it'd been there forever. So,
Sweet.
And I think, a couple, like you did your plugging project, it's good that you have that experience in your back pocket because, yeah, I will say that, like, to do it the right way and to expedite the process, yeah, you got to go take some plugs from good areas and put them in some areas that are a little bit thinner, move stuff around, and just, be as active as you want to be in the growing, but realize that the results will come in very short order because, as Matt said, this shit doesn't mess around. It moves pretty good.
Sure.
Here,
cool.
Okay, J Pink, throw that video up real quick when I just sent you when you get a chance.
There it is for you guys to see, kind of like how wide that. I mean, 50s. I don't know. I don't want to guess foot wise, but you can kind of see how much property line I'd be dealing with.
Yeah, I see your property line goes like what, a couple hundred feet. About
right there, I wouldn't say a couple hundred. I would say that's probably. I mean, I guess if you're including my backyard, like the fence line, yeah. Then
yeah,
you could
I
say
call
maybe
that
a
I
couple
call your
hundred.
fence line a part of the property line as well because that's my other little pet peeve is when fences like this allow grasses
which
to
part of
grow
the fence line are you looking at, Ray? Are you looking at because this is part of my backyard and my side yard. So you're looking at mostly my backyard or my yard right here. The only yard that isn't mine
Actually,
is
I can
the-
already see, Ben, how from that corner, I realize that corner demarcates your property line. I know that. And you know how I can tell? I see how when it's no longer your property, the grass looks different because it's your neighbor's lawn. It's obvious to me.
Yeah. Okay. Well, yeah. I just wasn't sure what part of the. If you.
Yeah,
I didn't know if you
well,
thought
and
that. Oh, go ahead.
that entire outside area was not yours. No, I'm very well aware of how it goes, and what I'm saying is that a fence like this can be my worst nightmare. And the reason why it can be my first nightmare is that nobody thinks to keep their own damn grass in their own damn yard. They just let the shit grow underneath the fence.
Bastards.
Okay?
Man, I'll tell you what, Ray is airing the grievances tonight. I think what we figured out is that Ray will have, when he does move to the mainland, he's going to have an estate of various grasses that's surrounded by a moat of fire. It's
Yeah. Pretty much. I mean,
I had another
remember
I had another part I was going to add in there, but we would have gotten kicked off the air for sure.
I remember what I told Ryan Noor when he told me he wanted to experiment with Zoysia at Westbury Farms. I told him, Yeah, I told him, yeah, Ryan, go ahead and experiment with Zoysia, but then you better make a moat filled with Pylex around that Zoysia.
Yeah. It's going to live. Ray's actually going to have a jacuzzi of various pesticides in a lazy river form around the property right there. That's what's going to happen. Oh yeah, so
Steve Klein
look at
asked
that.
about my mowing, about if I was. I mean, I wasn't. He said reel or rotary. I was planning on just rotary initially and just keeping it. I can mow my Honda. I rotary mowed the common Bermuda that I had with that like on its second to lowest height, which was just above an inch or so, and it did
Mhm.
really well. It had a good clean cut on it. I mean, it's never as clean as a reel, obviously, but it's decent. So that was what I was going to do because I don't want to really go down the rabbit hole of reel mowing because then that, you know, that's just it takes time for reel mowing because I'm gonna have to be mowing more frequently unless I use a PGR, which that I'm spraying again and those types of things. So I'm okay. I mean, I know I'm still gonna have to be mowing consistently during the summers with the Bermuda, even if I'm rotary mowing. But obviously, I have a little bit more wiggle room with a rotary than I do a reel. So that was my plan in regards to mowing.
So okay, show real quick for our great friend from Canada, Justin Dawson. Can JP, go ahead and throw that video. There it is. There it is. This is lawn painting. Now this is I'm pretty sure. Yeah, this is endurance. So this is them painting a dormant or near dormant warm season lawn. Dude, that was such a weak pass
Terrible.
finish there.
Terrible.
That makes me
I am
upset. What are
judging
we?
that guy.
Why?
What's he
Oh,
doing?
Come on, man.
Gosh. Lord.
Sensitive Sally over here. My goodness.
Lord.
We're gonna have to write it. We're gonna have to write a strongly worded letter to that guy. Can we dox him?
Yeah.
Can somebody find out who this guy is?
I got it. I got it.
You know what? He looks so awkward, Matt. And this is why, people have asked me,
Go.
why
go,
don't
go,
I
go.
use one of those one of those wheeled booms?
It hurts.
It is
It hurts
it is
to watch.
because it is because a wheeled boom can be so awkward and cumbersome to deal with where I can cover ground with a single fan nozzle on the end of a long wand. And Matt
Ray,
knows I can.
I've got to find
Matt
the.
knows
I've
I
got to
can do
find
it.
it for. But I've got one for you. I can't. I don't have the video. I'm not going to go look for it right now. But I saw this like a couple weeks ago. Okay, Spray Hawk, so a walking boom, battery operated, pumps able to go up to 2 gallons per thousand, covered boom, individual nozzle control with an iPad on it for for a GPS and RTK. That's Ray Sprayer right there, the future.
Yes and
All
no.
right, so
Yes and no, Ryan. You know why?
I wanted to. Oh,
Why?
go ahead, Ray. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt.
And the reason why is because that 2 gallon per thousand coverage is probably capped off at only 40 psi. Gotcha.
Ray's gonna have a gas powered pump, piston pump, just firing away. All right. What
I was gonna go back
what
to
was your question?
Something that although it mentioned way up earlier in the chat about doing anything to help amend the soil with in regards to the pH while I have it, mowed down to the ground and stuff like that. Would there be any advantage to doing anything or anything in addition I should do to help with that during that time or no?
Ben, I have one more good positive to say about Bermuda. Bermuda inherently is going to be a lot less sensitive to high pH soils.
Sweet.
It's going to have less of an issue with it versus your turf type tall fescue because as I recall, your main reason for embarking on pH correction was to attempt to manage a lot of the diseases that your turf type tall fescue was getting, because some of the diseases were aggravated by your high pH condition. Whereas
Mhm.
Bermuda, for the most part, is a lot less touchy about that. It's a lot easier, it's a lot more forgiving. So I could almost tell you, other than paying attention to your nitrogen source, you can almost kind of not worry about pH as much if you had Bermuda.
Okay. So that brings me to some other questions that I had in regards to the pH stuff. So just in general, like one thing I think I struggled with is just knowing what to expect with my lawn during different times of the year, because I don't, like there's other lawns that I won't lie, my lawn's not the best in there. There's other lawns that are looking great, and it's hard not to compare yours to others and stuff like that. But um, when I see theirs not doing well, and I'm like, well, mine's like, is it just the pH? Is that what's causing it to look more crappy during the summer than others? And so that's one question, is like, what should I expect it to look like throughout the year? Like right now, it looks bomb in the spring for the most part. It looks great in the fall when it recovers from the summer. And in general, like there's parts, like as you could see at the end of the summer, there were areas where it looked, decent. It wasn't terrible. But is that kind of normal to expect it to look more crappy in the summer because it's dealing with the high pH than some other lawns nearby?
Okay.
Oh,
I would
there he is.
probably tell you that for a lot of these people where they haven't addressed their pH,
Mm-hmm.
they're in fact running into multiple issues, and one of them is lack of micronutrient availability, and also issues with nitrogen availability, and that's just adding to the stresses on the grass, and making it harder for them to keep the grass green during the most stressful part of the year. Because what I always tell people too is that you're allowed to have so many things not optimal in a lawn, but you cannot have everything out of whack and expect it to look great. You're allowed to have so many things not quite right, but then you can't just say, "Oh, all of this needs attention," but then this grass has to look like a YouTube video. Can't do that.
Sure.
Okay, you just can't do that. And I think that in the case of what you see, that pH correction, or that pH, adjustment of the soil, is starting to stand out as like the one thing that, if you don't pay attention to it, that is basically the foundation that determines how easy or difficult your grass is to deal with and take care of. And that's kind of my experience with grass as well too, is that the pH basically determines how easy or difficult that lawn is going to be for me to manage from here on out. It's a make or break kind of a thing.
So it's just interesting to me, because I know I've heard Matt say like soils can differ from literally next door compared to yours,
Mhm.
which is just odd to me that it would, especially like if some of these neighbors that I know that are irrigated, they're using the same city water that I am, and it's has the high pH, because I actually tested the water. It's somewhere between an 8 and a 9. So I know that that's contributing to their yards, but their yards are still looking all right, like better than mine for the most part. So that's where it kind of like it starts to play with my mind a little bit of like, well, what's going on? Like, can it, like, I know you don't know the answer, but why would a lawn like soils differ that like just that close to one another?
It could be
Ben, the other
water
factor too.
resist- the date when
What?
the house was built, who the builder
Mhm.
was, where they're pulling structural fill from. All of those are
Imported
gonna play into
soil,
it. Yeah.
on-site topsoil.
Yes.
I mean, parent material.
Yes.
Like everything.
I gotcha.
Yes, because I had a conversation with somebody this morning about how I'm not going to make any assumptions about the composition of his soil that his grass is growing on, because me assuming will become the mother of all screw ups. So I would not assume anything about anybody's lawn until I saw a comprehensive soil analysis.
Sure.
I'd make no assumptions.
I got you. Well,
Yeah.
and the other thing I was just gonna say is like, is it even if you're on like a, I would say I do an okay job at, doing making my fungicide applications. I may not do it. There's probably times where I'm not doing it frequent enough, and so on. So because I'm not great at it in regards to that. Are you still going to get like outbreaks, even if you're on a relatively rigorous
Yes.
fungicide program?
Yes.
Okay.
It can happen. I mean, you see, I always tell people as well, I don't control the weather and neither do you.
Mhm.
Deal.
And I'm
Okay.
assuming it would be those outbreaks may even be more exaggerated dealing with soils like mine that are high pH, correct?
It can be. It can be. And
Okay.
one of the factors that I find kind of important is manganese and the availability of manganese to the turf grass, because manganese can be a mitigating element as far as certain turf grass diseases is concerned. And availability of manganese diminishes in a higher pH soil. It's less available.
And think about it from again, all your micronutrients, right? As you climb in pH, you're decreasing their solubility, right? Because you're increasing the rate that they're going to react with calcium or carbonates or hydroxides, and you'll get these insoluble precipitates that form. Now, let me say this. It's not to say that the plant won't use it through exudates. Yes, it will eventually use it. But it's more difficult for it to do that because now the plant is having to give up something in order for it to get back in return, right? And so, and again, this plays into something that's even more important, is that when you're going to supplement with a micronutrient, is that when you choose what you're going to actually use, is that you're using something that is soluble. So whether especially if you're going to be doing a soil applied application, right? Which anybody that's dealing with high pH soil should be applying foliarly as much as possible, especially micronutrients, because as soon as it makes contact with high pH soil, it's basically rendered into an oxide and then is quote unquote inert at that point, right? You're not going to capitalize on the benefit of having those elevated tissue levels and capitalizing on some of the benefits that like Ray's talking about, right? So I think I'm way overcomplicating things here. I don't know why I'm doing that.
Well,
No,
no, I think
I
it's
think
good.
you're-
Go ahead.
It's very important
much
for
on.
our viewers and listeners to understand that when you're dealing with a higher pH soil, for example, micronutrients that are present in a granule in the form of oxides or sulfates, for example, when that hits your high pH soil, those elements or those materials immediately react and form the carbonates or the reduced oxide, the oxidized oxides. And so, in order for the plant to get that, the plant then has to expend a lot of energy to even get it. And I'm not saying that the plant can't get it. I'm just saying that the plant has to go through extra work in order to even receive benefit from those elements. And the reason why I say this is because oftentimes when somebody is thinking to apply micronutrients, in a lot of cases, it's because their soil is less than optimal and they actually could benefit from available micronutrients. Am I right? I mean, they actually could benefit from it. So, because they actually need it and could benefit from it, I think it would behoove them to apply these micronutrients in a form that is easily and readily available to the grass without the grass having to work for it.
I like it. You got it.
You-
You know,
Your nose in turf here is talking about, and this is where it gets tricky, right? And I'm going to talk about this in hypotheticals and theoreticals, because his question is that if you're on a solid enough spray program, does it really matter what's soil available? And the answer is not really, no. But your complexity, your precision, your timing, all of that is going to increase significantly. So I like to think of it this way. If you've ever grown a plant hydroponically, right, you're effectively using inert materials as soil, and water as soil, right? Water is your soil. That's your nutrient carrier. That's your nutrient medium, right, is water. And the complexity there is that you have to make sure everything is there for the plant. So you have to make sure adequate calcium is there, adequate magnesium is there, because your water may not have it, especially if you're using like DI water or RO water, right? And so the complexity goes up because you have to make sure everything is there at all times when it needs it, right? And it's the same kind of complexity of when you're growing in washed sand, right? Because washed sand is going to be pretty damn low when it comes to anything nutrient value, right? So yes, you can bypass soil, so to speak, but your complexity and your management intensity is going up exponentially in order to do that. That's why a lot of times when people start growing grass on sand for the first time, they're extremely overwhelmed. And I'm not talking about a homeowner. I'm talking about professionals. This is myself and many other people I know, that when you make that transition to a real sand base, it is a eye-opening experience that you really question your sanity on, because shit gets real fast. So,
Matt,
what's up?
on the other hand, growing grass on sand actually tends to make me lose my mind less.
Because you're a control freak, Ray. You are the turf grass control freak of control freaks that is as ornery as they come. So, of course, it makes you feel more comfortable, because you get to control even more aspects of growing grass.
Well, the thing is that on sand, for example, I no longer have to think now, am I going to be dealing with factors in the sand that, for example, counteract or contradict my inputs? That's where for me sand becomes simple, because I know I'm going to apply NPK and micronutrients, and I know that the grass is going to get it and respond to it in a fairly predictable manner.
Sure.
Yeah.
But back to your case, Ben, native soil and what you have going on.
much more forgiving.
Way more forgiving. And you're dealing now with a new turf type that is also going to be much more forgiving than what you're accustomed to as well.
Okay. Well, I was
Bermuda
going to
is
ask.
so
like-
forgiving.
Mhm.
Yeah.
I was going to ask, like, so, I've been making a lot of applications spraying ammonium sulfate. Am I I don't generally like to put more than when I spray, I'm only putting like a quarter pound of nitrogen down. But during the fall, like when I'm wanting to put more heavier applications of nitrogen down, I don't generally like to spray, just because I know, well, for one, if I'm doing it every week, I just don't want to spray every week. And then if I put mix it a little bit more of a concentration, I'm not always able to get. Well, I guess watering it in right away would be your best bet if I'm putting a heavier app down, spraying it. But am I able to just put that, even though it's sprayable AMS? Can I just put that in a spreader and spread it? Would that still be beneficial?
Sure can.
As long as you can control your rate
Get it through it.
appropriately,
Yeah.
no problem. Let me ask, is it more like sand or is it like chips, crystals? How would you describe the consistency? What color is it also? It tells me who it comes from.
Some of it is it's varied in color depending on where I've gotten it.
Is it pink?
Sometimes it's been pink.
Okay.
Sometimes it's been white.
Okay.
Or sometimes it's like an off-white look.
Okay.
And sometimes it's like a chip color. It's like a chip, or it's like a sandy material.
So if it's pink, that's coming from Honeywell. And yes, you have a little bit less size consistency with it, but again, the spray grade, you're still dealing with such a fine material that the size consistency isn't going to be a big deal. So your SGN on that is going to be between 65 and 105. So 40 SGN difference, is that really enough for you to know the difference? Probably not. If you're on bent grass mode at 100,000ths of an inch, maybe you're going to be better off just dissolving and spraying it. But on Bermuda grass at an inch, inch and a half, no, you can get away with it. Just calibrate your spreader first. The white stuff and the off-white stuff is probably going to be coming from APF or one of the other guys. And again, if it's sugar consistency, typically that stuff is going to be 65 SGN, and again, it is spreadable. Just be careful because it is hygroscopic. It can clump up on you. So make sure you have your spreader screen in, and just make sure you calibrate it, and then you're good.
Well, in general, when I'm spreading stuff that's very small prill, I will, even if I know like a setting or I have it calibrated, I'll even dial it down even more, and I'll just go over the lawn several times essentially just to get it down. And then
as long as you go over the lawn the same number of times, you're okay.
Right.
Don't just end
No.
your application halfway, on your third app or something. Just make sure you get 3 complete passes or 2 complete passes, whatever it is. Or if it takes you 6, you get 6 complete passes. Just don't stop.
I gotcha.
Yeah.
So I guess
No.
but the plant's still that's still available for the plant to get, even though you're not spraying it.
Yes,
No,
yes,
100%.
it's absolutely
100%.
Okay.
absolutely available. However, here's something to think about with Bermuda. Bermuda and nitrogen. I'm of the mind that less is more with Bermuda. And that's even if you have the dual situation of it's hot, it's humid, you're also supplying it a lot of water, and it's raining a lot. Less is more, because do you honestly want to need to mow that every day or even twice a day?
Sure.
Because Bermuda can take up a lot of nitrogen with minimal ill effects. However, nitrogen controls the rate of growth on Bermuda a lot. And so when you're dealing with Bermuda, I'm often on that line of supplying enough nitrogen just to maintain physiological function and color. However, I do not want to be there every day to have to mow it.
Sure. Well, I wasn't just
You know?
referring to Bermuda. I was also just referring to applying it to the tall fescue areas of my lawn as well.
Actually,
Um,
okay, your fall application in September and early October, that can absolutely be a granular application of, say, 2.5 pounds of material per 1,000 square foot per application. Absolutely. I mean, remember what we always say about cool season grass. Put that grass to bed on a full stomach.
Sure.
Yeah.
The last thing I was going to say, and this is in regards to, or a question I had was in regards to the poor drainage in my yard just because of the soil makeup as well as the pH. Would it be advantageous for me to aerate in the spring and in the fall just to help with that? And then
No.
I don't know. I didn't. The
No.
other aspect of thinking, the other like mind or thought process I had was like during that time of aeration, making an application of elemental sulfur to maybe, since the ground is open theoretically in a way, would getting that some of the elemental sulfur down in the ground via those holes be beneficial. That's why I was also thinking about doing it in the spring and fall just to help with that.
Are you talking about on warm season or cool season?
Cool season?
Okay.
I would say, in terms of the aeration spring fall, you know, I look at the effort to benefit ratio here. You know, do I think it would help? Yeah, but you know, if you're talking about going over with like a rented lawn aerator one time, we're affecting somewhere between like 2 and 3% of the surface area of the lawn. I don't know that you're going to see any appreciable gains doing something like that. I think you'd have to be a much more sustained effort. You know, longer term, and that's probably just not likely to happen given, you know, the amount of time you want to put in the lawn. And I'm not, you know, saying that's a bad thing. I just don't know. So I guess from a drainage standpoint, what are the ill effects that you see in your lawn with respect to poor drainage?
Well, I guess in regards to drainage, I mean, just being that it is a clay, you know, soil, and I know generally, from what I understand, high pH soils are going to have a just a poor drainage in general. So that's what I was kind of talking about. I'm not talking about like I have puddling or anything like that. I was just talking about just in general.
You know what? Other than managing pH best as I can, you know, and maintaining nutrient levels, I basically give zero you know what's about clay. I don't care about it. I mean, it doesn't cause me to go off on tangents and say, "Oh, I've got to specifically change texture or do something about drainage in that," because you know what's amazing to me about grassroots? Grassroots will punch through anything. I mean, goodness, I see zoysia growing across people's expansion joints in their driveway. So, you know,
the benefit,
clay
the
doesn't
benefit to
bother me.
effort to benefit ratio and even results to effort ratio. I think I just said it backwards, but the same thing twice, but backwards. Especially in the spring, right? In the spring, you're not dealing with Kentucky bluegrass that's going to repair itself. You're dealing with tall fescue. You inadvertently are going to end up ripping the grass good in places where you didn't intend on ripping the grass. I just don't see it giving you your bang for your buck. At best, you're going to gain a percentage point of improvement out of it. Is it worth it to potentially rip up grass and create some thin spots inadvertently, accidentally, for that? You know what you're risking for a 1 to 3% improvement. I think you can gain that 1 to 3% improvement somewhere else, in my opinion.
Yeah,
I agree.
Yeah, that's something I forgot to think about. Is that turf type tall fescue is not necessarily self-repairing, whereas something like Bermuda, have at it. It'll just grow back. I mean, tear it up, torture it, tie it up. It don't care. It'll just grow back. But then on the turf type tall fescue, I'd be very leery of any kind of damaging operation to it Unless, of course, you're going to damage it and then overseed it immediately after.
Sure.
Ben,
Well, I did
just
Oh,
real
go
quick,
ahead,
let me
Matt.
interrupt you and say if we can move on to our final questions. J Pink is post surgery recovery here, and he's going to have to
Oh.
tap out. And so if we can start to wind this down because he is foobarred on drugs right now. Doctor prescribed, not ones that I gave him. Okay, let's make that clear.
I don't have any real further questions. I did send both last year and this year's soil test just to kind of show you guys where I'm at in regards to things I've how they're going. And that was obviously done at the beginning of this year. I don't know if you wanted to see those or not, but you had them. So I don't have any other questions aside from those things. So.
Is J Pink even still awake anymore?
Coherent.
J Pink, transition to screen if you're still awake.
Yeah, let us know you're still awake and okay.
And if that's it's not a big deal. I was just gonna recap again the process of the sprigging. So spraying it out, mowing it down. At the bare minimum would be spraying it out, mowing it down, and then putting the sprigs down and then rolling it if I can get that. Or it used to mentioned the power rake as well. And then after that, just pretty much watering it and letting it do its thing.
Mm-hmm. Fertilizing it probably about every 2 to 3 weeks. Just straight
Okay.
N is fine. Probably going about a half a pound each time. So over the entire course of the grow-in, let's just say that it's 12 weeks long, and you're going about every 3 weeks. So you're going to have about 2 pounds of N down. I would go ahead and throw pre-plant down too. So you might throw a half a pound of N along with if you're deficient in AP and K. Go ahead and put that down right over top of the sprigs before you start watering and rolling and everything like that, and then let it rip. So all in 2.5 pounds of N, whatever P and K that you need per soil test, and mow as soon as it's ready to go. Give it hell.
Right on.
All right. J Pink is unconscious, so we're gonna wrap this out. I'm gonna try and figure out how to end this, but I think I still remember how to do these things. Ben, thank you for coming on. Keep us posted. Keep us posted on what is coming up, especially as you move into this. And I highly, highly, highly encourage you to go the route of Bermuda. Be the leader, be the one who makes the change. Start a trend in your neighborhood, start a trend in your area, start a trend in the transition zone, and damn it, show people there's an alternative, and in my opinion, a better way to do things. So thank you again for coming on. Where can people
sir,
learn
for
more
having
about
me.
you, Ben?
Oh, that's not important.
Alrighty.
I'm not really posting anything anymore.
Who
Links in the
gives a
description
shit? They
below.
can go back and watch your journey. The links are in the description below. Ben the Lawn Guardian is our guest tonight. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
All right. We'll catch everybody on the flip side. Bye.
Bye.